Hey everyone, sorry about being a minute or so late. I apologize. I was just reviewing the video that I'm about to post here after the live stream. So it'll be up by morning. But I do want to thank everybody for being with me tonight. I appreciate it, especially since I was late also in getting the notice put up on YouTube. So thank you, everyone. And of course, I have to say thank you to Rob over at Curmudgeon Inn, who is here to help host and moderate tonight. I really appreciate that, Rob. You are so kind to take your Saturday night this late, especially to help me out. Much, much appreciated. And hi, Carrie Ann, my friend from Ohio. I hope you're doing well tonight. Carrie Ann says, yes, totally awesome for night shifters. Thank you, Carrie Ann. And Chris Watson says, hello, hola, sorry. Hola, just saw this for my ride home and thought I'd say howdy. Well, howdy, Chris. I'm so glad you can make it here tonight. And JR says, hello, little lady. Hello, JR. How are you doing? And Chris also says, I suspect a hacker or bot has hijacked Alone's YouTube. Yes, I did get several notifications tonight that someone is being an imposter of my channel, and they're putting out a WhatsApp message on other people's messages on my channel. So if you see that, it is not me. I do not have a WhatsApp, and it is completely fraud. So just please report it to YouTube, and that will remove the comment from my channel and also help them to remove that bot and get them out of the way. So please don't acknowledge it by replying to it or calling that phone number or whatever. WhatsApp is very suspect of fraud. So please report them. And thank you, everybody who has done so already. And hi, Big T over at Rustic Log Cabin Life. Big T says, greetings, y'all, from Willow, Alaska. Big T, I did see your last video, as you probably know, because I left you a comment on it. I am sorry to hear that you have decided to stop posting videos. Hopefully that's only temporary. But if not, do please stay in touch, because I would like to know how you're doing from time to time and make sure that you're doing all right. So for those of you who don't know, Big T has had some issues with his Gazette computer, and recently just had an issue with his credit card information being stolen. So fraud is rampant everywhere. But because of that, Big T has just decided he's got other things going on in his life, and he would like to take a break from YouTube and focus on those other things. And I can completely understand and appreciate that. So again, do stay in touch though, because I would like to make sure that you're doing all right. And RM, how are you doing tonight? RM says, evening, folks. So glad you could be with us in the chat tonight. And Julianne Avery's here, and she says, hello, everyone from New York State. Hello, Julianne. So glad you could join us. And Bren's here, Bren Free. Bren says, hi, Alone. Hi, everyone. It's raining and cold in my part of Australia. Just had a nice homemade Thai chicken curry for dinner. So good. Oh, that sounds so tasty. I love chicken curry, and I'm glad that you could be here with us tonight in the chat. It's very much appreciated. And RM says, do I just type it in like that, or do I click on something? I think you have to hit the little arrow to send your comment, but obviously if that's what you're talking about, you seem to have it figured out. If not, hopefully we can help walk you through that. And Bren is saying hi to RM and hoping that you're well. And Bren, or Brun RM has replied and said, thanks, you too. And hello, Deb. How are you doing tonight? Deb 57C from Eagle River. Nice of you to be here. Eagle River is between Anchorage and Palmer or Wasilla. And I'm so glad that you could join us tonight. It's very kind of you to be here on this late Saturday evening. JR says, when you type the @ sign and just start to type, a name will get you a pop-up, and just select the one you want. There you go. JR figured out exactly what you were talking about, RM, and I'm glad that he was able to do that, and hopefully that helps. And there you go. RM has replied at JR. Nothing popped up. Sometimes you'll get a little pop-up that'll show up, and other times you won't. It depends upon how many subscribers they have. I've noticed sometimes that'll affect it. But nonetheless, if you do the @ and then even if you type out their name, they will see it on their end with a colored bar on their name in the chat. So hopefully that helps. And JR says, no space between the @ and the name. Sometimes the cursor will block the pop-up, and I think it is case sensitive. I believe that is correct as well. And now Chris Watson is saying good morgen mean Carmadin. Karma. I don't know the word. I don't speak German. Sorry. I tried my best, Chris, but I got the good morgen. Guten Morgen. And Julianne says, hello, JR, 55 in New York State at 2:56 a.m. No rain. We finally got rain this past week. Garden loves it. Get to pick more strawberries. Ooh, lovely. I did plant some strawberries that I had found growing out underneath some of the pine trees out in front of my garden. The video that I'll be publishing tonight after the live stream is regarding getting the garden in, but I didn't show those strawberry plants. So maybe I'll show them in the next video after that. But there's a couple blooms on it already. So I'm hoping I get at least a couple strawberries if the birds don't get to them first. And hello, Norm. How are you doing tonight? Norm says hello all from Henrico County, Virginia. So glad you could be here. RM says, still can't do it, but thanks anyway, JR. Well, at least you tried, and hopefully it'll work eventually for you. And SKS Hugo, how are you doing tonight? SKS says, good night, y'all. Good night to you too. And so glad you could be here. And we have Adam and Phyllis from Alaska Cut the Cord in the house who say hello, alone and all. Hello, Adam and Phyllis. And John Feeney says hi from O'Hare. Well, hello, John. So nice of you to be in the chat with us tonight. And LaRue Douglas. LaRue says hello, everyone from Iowa. So glad you could join us. RM says, hi, Annie Alone. Nice to see you. Same to you, RM. So glad you could be here and that you are active in the chat. I do appreciate it when people are typing away in the chat and conversing with each other. JR says, WhatsApp, only famous YouTubers get hit by them. Ooh, I would like to think that that's the case. But definitely, I think because I get a lot of comments, that might be why that I got hit by it. It's not the first time, and it probably won't be the last, unfortunately. Hi, Ira. Ira Handworkers here, and Ira says hi or hello, Lone. And everyone, 3 a.m. here in South Georgia. Hope everyone's great. Well, we hope that you're doing great too, and your mom, Lorraine, as well. Tell her I said hi if she's not up and around watching this morning. And Charlotte and Dave Story, so nice to see you in the chat again. Charlotte and Dave say good morning from England, currently 8:03 a.m. here. I hope you're having wonderful weather there and enjoying your morning. And Byron Piles is here and says, hey, what a pleasant surprise for a night owl to see you. Well, thank you, Byron. I appreciate you being here, and it's also my pleasure to see you in the chat. Bren says, let's all hit the thumbs up now for Alone, please. Thank you, Bren. Much appreciated. As you know, those thumbs up do help YouTube promote the channel and the live stream as well. Ira says, sometimes you need to be careful what you wish for. After months of drought here in South Georgia, we had a tornado hit and a horrible hell, but we did get rain. Well, I'm glad you got the rain, but I'm sorry to hear about the tornado and the hell. Hopefully your home was not damaged and those in your area are safe and no tongue twisted there. No loss of life or limb, hopefully. JR says, Gut Morgen Carmadin means good morning, my comrades. There we go. That's kind of what I figured, but I wasn't quite sure. So thank you for putting up the translation, JR. Much appreciated. And Deb says, it's been such a chilly gray summer so far, but today was fabulous. Yes, today was a nice day. I saw the Alaska weather report the other day, and they were saying that June has been the coldest June on record, I think, since 2008. And they said we're 2 degrees below normal. So it's not a lot below normal, but it does make a difference for sure. And Brent says, Alone, how's the week been for your property? Any bears or critters? I have not seen any evidence of bears this week, which is good, but I did have a lot of moose activity on the property. I showed some of it in this video that's coming out in the morning, and I will put some more in the following video, but lots of moose on the property. The moose look rather skinny so far this year, but I'm sure they'll fatten up in time for hunting season. And Ira says, enjoying lots of Cherokee purple tomatoes, squash, peppers, eggplants. I'm sure that says figs, blackberries, and okra from the garden. Oh, all of that sounds delicious. I could definitely have a feast with all that. Hello, Bernadette Evans. How are you doing tonight? Bernadette says, howdy, I'm new here. Well, thank you for joining us on the live stream tonight. So for those of you who are new, whether you're in the chat or not, the way this live stream typically goes is that I do read every chat that comes in because there are a lot of people who listen to my live stream as if it were a podcast. And also, it makes it interactive for those that are listening at home and for those that are in the chat and maybe not as actively watching the chat. Also, I'm looking for questions regarding my life here in this remote part of Alaska or regarding Alaska in general. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat and I will do my best to answer them. And also my moderators, JR and Rob, will also help to answer questions as need be. But thank you for being here tonight, Bernadette. Really appreciate it. Hello, Happy Chappy Van Life. How are you doing tonight? Happy Chappy says, alone, my friend. I've missed you. Thank you so much for organizing this. It's been a long month. It has been a long month. And for those of you who are also new here, I do host this Saturday night live at once a month occurrences currently. That may change in the future. It may go back to being more frequently, or it just may fluctuate as to when in the month it actually occurs based upon my schedule and things like that. As it is summer and it is quite hectic outside right now. But I also have a live stream on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Alaska Standard Time that you're more than welcome to join also. So happy you could be here tonight with us. So happy Chappy. And Norm says, no rain yesterday, 85 degrees now at 68 degrees. Supposed to be 85 on Sunday. Woo, that's warm. I am not a fan of that warm weather, but I hope you're doing well in it nonetheless, Norm. And Alex F., thank you for being here. Alex says, hello, alone. Hello, hello. And RM says, welcome to Bernadette. Norm says, what part of South Georgia? Bren says, alone, are you still using the wood stove at this time? I am not using the wood stove, even on the days where it's been a little bit chilly, like yesterday was quite chilly when I woke up. I never lit the wood stove. For one, even though it's kind of chilly, it's not chilly enough to warrant the use of the wood stove. And it gets so hot in the cabin, even with the windows open, that it makes it unbearable to be on the upper levels of the cabin. And so I'm just kind of holding off, not even using the oil burner or anything right now. Mainly what I'm doing is, like you see now, I have on just a sweater if I get chilly. And during the day, I have the window open on the main level and the windows open up here in the office and the loft. So far it's actually been really, really comfortable. Though I did order my wood deliveries for this next year. I was trying to remember on the last live stream how much wood I'd actually gotten delivered last year. And it turns out that I did have all 9 cords delivered. And out of the 9 cords, I burnt 8. And that is in addition to the singular cord that I have had left over from the year prior. So altogether last winter, from basically the September up until a couple of weeks ago, I burnt, 9 cords total because I still have about a quarter wood left. So that's a lot if you think about it. It's 2 cords above what I burnt the year prior. But again, there were some circumstances which may have led to that. One is I didn't get the windows insulated as early on in the winter as I probably should have. I did have the roof replaced. For those of you who are new to this channel, when I first bought my cabin, it had a closed cell foam roof on it, but it was leaking. And so I had to have that replaced. I now have R38 insulation and a metal roof. But I have no ceiling. I just have the vapor barrier up. So that's probably allowing for some heat loss as well. I also removed the insulation below the floor of the main level of the cabin and just put up Reflectix. That Reflectix is sitting right up against the underlayment of the floor. And therefore, it only has an R value of 1. And so there is some heat loss that direction as well, though it's not that bad. The floor is not cold to the touch. I could walk barefoot on it in the dead of winter and it's not cold. But those things in conjunction probably have led to having used more wood. In addition to that, I did run out of oil in my oil burner because of a logistical timing error in my brain. And over Christmas weekend, when the temperatures were at the lowest, because that's also when we have the least amount of sunlight here, averaging at about 5 hours a day of sunlight, and the temperatures were about negative 55. And inside the cabin, it got down to about 20 degrees. So everything inside the cabin froze, and it took all weekend to get the cabin brought up to a decent temperature. And I burnt through a week's worth of wood alone in that one weekend. So that could be part of that as well, that extra usage. But nonetheless, I did order 12 cords for this coming year. So hopefully I will have plenty of wood on hand and have some additional wood to season over the next few years, though the wood I am ordering is seasoned to begin with. So thank you for asking that, Bren. Ira says, my mom is asleep, but will be happy to and impressed you asked about her will replay. Well, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And for those of you who are also new, if you need to step away for any moment, but you want to check back in on the live, it is available on replay also. So you can always come back and watch them at any time. I do have a recommendation, though, that if you're going to watch it on replay, put it on double speed because it'll go by super fast and you'll still catch everything I'm saying, but it's actually a lot of fun to watch it that way. I've done it a couple of times now, and I have a big smile on my face when I watch it at double speed. And Bernadette says, I would absolutely love to visit Alaska. I think you should. If you ever get the opportunity, you definitely should come and visit Alaska. In my opinion, Alaska is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Of course, I live here, so I'm kind of biased. But there's so much to see and experience in Alaska, and it's breathtaking. It will absolutely take your breath away, like I said. But if you're going to come, if you're not a big fan of winter and winter driving and sports, the best time to come out to Alaska is going to be late spring or early fall. And that way you're going to beat some of that seasonality tourist traffic. If you come in June and July, it's absolutely gorgeous, but there's a lot of people visiting here. Things are more expensive, and you're going to have to deal with all the other tourists that are out here doing the same things you're trying to do. And Happy says, how's the weather been for you? In saying that you were having 42 degrees the other week. Yeah, that was actually not correct. So she's referring to my trail cams that are set up against the I have a sign that's sitting up right behind one of my trail cams, and the sign is metal. And so the sun had actually hit that metal sign, then was reflecting back on the temperature gauge of the trail cam and made it read that it was 109 degrees Fahrenheit here in my property, or at my property. In reality, it wasn't that warm. It was just the reflection of the sun off of that metal sign. But the temperatures have been hovering, I would say, around mid 50s to low 60s here recently, and even that's pretty warm, to be honest with you. Even though it's the Weather Channel says we're 2 degrees cooler than normal, it's still really warm when it gets up to the mid 60s. We did have a day where I think it got 67 or 68 degrees here, and in other areas of Alaska it was in the 70s that day, and expected to be in the 70s all week long. So pretty warm. And Happy says, how's your kenai flowers growing? My kenai flowers had to get plucked. I've had to pluck those kenai flowers a couple of times because they just keep reappearing and messing up all the other plants that I tried to get planted. So my dog, who is sleeping behind me on the floor here, decided he was going to climb into my newly planted vegetable garden and take a dirt nap. So I had to pluck him right out of there, but he's gotten in there twice more. But I did remedy it, so he is less likely to get in there. Hopefully he learned his lesson too, because he got a little scolding for doing that. And John Feeney, how are you doing tonight? John says, my missus told me we had sticking snow in Wyoming on Friday. Ooh, That's pretty unusual, I would think, for the middle of June in Wyoming. I wonder what part of Wyoming it was snowing in. But I know, like Colorado, my parents had a property that set at about 92 or 9,600 feet. I can't remember exactly. And they had snow 11 months out of the year. So they only had a 30-day window where they would not have snow at their property. So if I know that snow is always coming around in Colorado and Wyoming when you least expect it. And thank you for being here, by the way, too. And Bernadette says, I'm getting ready to relocate to Southern California, from Southern California to Northern Michigan, but I've always wanted to live in Alaska. Well, hopefully you're not in for too much of a culture shock. And also, hopefully you enjoyed that cold weather up there in Northern Michigan. I understand if you're anywhere near the UP, the Upper Peninsula, it's absolutely gorgeous. In fact, there's a couple channels that I watch that are up in the UP. And sometimes I have to remind myself that they're in Michigan and not in Alaska, because some of the things they show look very, very similar, other than the mountain ranges, of course. But I hope you have a successful move. And Deb says, ran into Mama Bear with 2 cubs on my driveway. The cubs were up in a tree with Mama below, ready to defend. Glad I was in the truck and not on foot. Ooh, yes, that's a close call for sure. I know Rob had a run in with some black bears the other day when he and Sarah and their dog Zeus tried to go down to town. So luckily they were not injured either, but we just did have a fatality here in Alaska. I'm sorry, not a fatality of a bear, but not of the individual. Bear down on the Kenai Peninsula had actually attacked a gentleman, and he was able to defend himself with a firearm, but it was a close call nonetheless. And he did sustain some injuries, but was not fatally injured, thank goodness. And thank goodness you weren't injured either, Deb. That is really scary. Happy says, how was my Homer the other week? Homer was really, really nice. It was really cold and rainy down there. Unfortunately, I wasn't feeling too well the day that I was actually in Homer, but I got some footage for everybody as well. And I got some footage of all along the coast of the peninsula down there. It's absolutely gorgeous. I cannot wait to show you guys that footage. Unfortunately, there's only a little snippet of it in this week's video, but in future video, there will be a lot more of it. So I'm so happy that you're going to be able to come along with me on that trip as well. Brent says, do you have any flowing creeks nearby with water flowing? I have, there are streams along the road that I live on, and there's a spring fed pond behind my property. But the water in it is not really suitable for drinking, so I can't really pull the water from there. But I'm surrounded by about 3 rivers, and one of those rivers is the Copper River, which right now is teeming with red salmon, copper reds, and I got to have a fresh salmon the other day, thanks to someone in the community, and it was absolutely delicious. So I'm hoping that I'm going to get to go dip netting here in the next couple of weeks. And also, a friend of mine has access to a fish wheel and has asked me if I would like to come along when they get the opportunity to use it, so that I can film that for you guys. So if timing works out, I definitely plan on doing that and showing you guys what the fish whales are all about here in Alaska as well. And Happy says, have you been fishing yet? Not yet, but as I just mentioned, hopefully that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. So not only do I want to go dip netting here along the Copper River, but also I'll be going back out towards Kenai and doing some fishing out there as well. I will be meeting up with a gentleman who charters some boats, and he's going to take me out for a day of fishing. So that'll be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to show you guys everything that happens on that trip. And Happy says, Ixum, still waiting on the montage. I know, I'm so bad. And Rustic Log Cabin Life says, Annie, get your snowblower, right? I definitely need to get a snowblower. I had the chance at getting one that was actually on snow tracks. And unfortunately, I missed the opportunity to get that. But I'm sure that I'll get one before next winter, nonetheless, because definitely going to help with the property. Next, I have not gotten it yet, Big T, but it will help when I do get it because, like I said, I had a lot of snow here last year and I could have used it for sure. And in the house, we have Bill from Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead. Bill is also one of the moderators here on the live stream. So thank you for being here, Bill. And Bill says, hi, Alone, and hi, everyone. So glad you made it here tonight. And Happy Chappy says, also, where's your cooking lady? You eating? Well, if you watch my next video that's coming out this morning, you'll see that I've been eating quite well. I look like I put on a few pounds. So if you look at my video back in December when I did the beef haul to this video, you'll be like, oh yeah, she's eating. But yeah, I just need to sit down and edit. I have so many videos that are filmed and they're longer videos, so they're taking a lot longer to edit. In fact, the video that I'm posting in the morning for you guys actually took me 2 days to edit, which is unusual for me. Usually it's 12 hours total, so over a few days, spending hours, a couple hours here and there, I can get a video edited. This one was like a full 2 days of sitting at the computer doing nothing else but editing. So I actually wound up taking stuff out of the video because it wasn't adding anything to it, and the video was originally about an hour and a half long, and I was like, oh, that's just too long. So I guarantee you there will be some cooking videos. In fact, I will be editing one of them next because I keep promising you guys that video, so they're coming, I promise. And JR says, but that wood usage was due to -60 temps. That is true. So where I live, it's not uncommon for the temperatures here in the dead of winter. So at the coldest point, which is around the winter solstice, for the temperatures to get down to -45 to -60 for weeks on end. Generally for about 2 weeks is when I'll experience those temperatures. So yeah, that does have a lot to do with it as well. Also, one other thing that has to do with it is when I had the new roof put on, I had my wood stove moved from one side of the cabin where it had a couple of bins in the chimney. Those bins in the chimney did allow some heat retention in the chimney stack itself. Now, when I had the wood stove moved from that location to the center of the cabin, it now has a straight shot chimney and it doesn't retain heat quite as well. So that's also part of it, is that there's a bit of heat loss from the new chimney formation. So also having to do with how much wood I burnt. And Bernadette says, I'm here. I hear I'm going to go through a lot of wood in my stove this next season. Yes, you probably will. My understanding is next winter is supposed to be, at least what the forecast is supposed to be just as harsh as this winter was, and if not worse. So stock up. I don't know how big of a place you think you're going to wind up with, or if you've already got your place, but I will tell you that my home is roughly 25 or 2,700 square feet. It's 2 levels with a full cellar below it. So the cellar is the same footprint as the house, which is 30 by 30, and it has Arctic entry, which is like 16 by 17 feet. And like I said, the first winter here, I burnt 7 cords of wood. This winter, I burnt 9 cords. Sorry, I'm still doing the math in my head. 9 cords of wood. So it can be quite expensive. Here, the wood that I am purchasing is costing me, after delivery fees and everything, is costing me around $385 a cord. The oil burner last year also cost me around $385 a month to use. So it didn't matter whether I was burning the oil or burning wood, the cost was roughly the same, because it was cheaper to burn the wood, because last year I burnt half a cord a month in the shoulder months, and only during the coldest part of winter did I burn a full cord in a month. So it's actually cheaper to burn wood than use the oil burner. And Happy says, how's your mice situation this year? Well, I thought I had it all resolved, But now that the weather's warmed up again, and I've been bringing things in and out of the cabin, I have had 2 more mice in the cabin. Luckily, I caught them really, really quickly, so I haven't had them get into anything in the pantry or anything like that. But I did also find where they were coming in the Arctic entry, and I was able to get those holes sealed up with some steel wool and some spray foam. So hopefully that is not an issue for the rest of summer, but I also will be adding a screen door to the front of the cabin as well, so that hopefully as I'm coming in and out and that screen door shuts behind me, there isn't a chance for the mouse to run in as readily as it is when I've got the door standing wide open while I'm hauling stuff out of the vehicle. But no damage this go around, thank goodness. And Bill over at Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead is saying, don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Thank you for that, Bill. I appreciate it very much. And Bernadette is also saying the same thing there. Thank you both. That is so kind of you. And Happy says, wow, so many questions. Maybe a month is too long. Maybe indeed. Maybe I should do it every other week. We'll just have to see. Like I said, summer is really, really busy here. I have just been go, go, go this last couple weeks. So we'll see. Plus, I have, like I said, those trips coming up to go fishing. I have a friend of mine who I think is going to be coming up in a couple of weeks. I just need to confirm with her that she got her plane ticket. I have family that's coming in August, and there's a whole host of other things that are going on. So timing will have to rely or revolve around those things, but hopefully we'll get it figured out where I can get you guys a live stream that is more convenient and more often. And Happy says, how is your driveway sorted now? So not this video, but the next video will be covering the driveway, some of the issues that were uncovered as the work began on that, and also the clearing and leveling of the back of the property, and also creating fire breaks around the cabin. So all I will say is that it's drivable right now, which is good, because the holes that were left from vehicles getting stuck in the driveway was actually becoming rather inconvenient as I was trying to offload things out of the car. But luckily, the driveway at the moment is drivable. And Happy also asked, how is Mr. Kenai doing? He's doing quite well. He's sleeping back behind us. So, or behind me, because I'm you and me. But he's right there on the floor. He's probably bored to death because I've been editing, like I said, for the last 2 days. And there is Big T's channel link for everybody over at Rustic Log Cabin Life. So thank you, Bill, for putting that up. And I'm sure Big T appreciates it as well. And Deb says it was 37 one morning this week. Yeah, there are some mornings where it's really, really cold. In fact, let me just check the weather app on my phone real quick here and see what the weather is expected to be this week. The lowest we have here in this area was today, and that was at 40 degrees. And then the highest temperature is supposed to be on Monday, and it's supposed to be near 70 degrees on Monday. So rather warm, like I said, when it gets that hot. But I know in some areas of Alaska, they're still getting down to freezing. I have a friend up in Barrow, and he was telling me that this week they're still in the 30s, low 30s. In fact, I think one day their high and their low are 1 degree apart at like 34 and 35 degrees. So really, really cold. And Bill has also put up Bren's channel link, so Bren Free, and there is the link for everybody. So be sure to pay both Big T and Bren a visit if you will. I'm sure they would both appreciate it. And Happy says, does Dewey hibernate in the winter? Was fun to see them again. Yeah, I'm not sure what Dewey does. I think Dewey's snuggling up with Sasquatch, but I should have added another clip to the end of that last video, because as I was filming the skit with Dewey, the locators for the utility lines here on the property showed up just as I was filming it, and I was coming out of the outhouse all dressed up. And I was kind of embarrassing. I was like, okay, yeah, I was trying to get that done quickly, but then they showed up. I'm sure they were looking at me like I had two heads, but it was still funny. And Bill has put up his own channel link for everybody, Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead. So be sure to check out Bill's channel and tell him Alone sent you. And there is my channel link for everybody. I'm sure you're aware because you're here. But if you're here by chance and you would like to subscribe, the subscribe button should be right there. And I would appreciate it if you would. Hopefully you're enjoying the content, and hopefully you'll check out my videos as well, and leave comments and let me know what you think there as well. And Julie Lucia Sanchez says, hello from California. Love your videos. Well, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you joining us tonight as well. Hopefully you're doing also well. And Bill says, don't be modest alone. We know your close presence to the thermometer made it read over 100 degrees. Yeah, but if it's for that, it's not because of what you're insinuating. It's got to be for other reasons, like the fact that I'm always go, 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 and I'm just burning up a sweat. And Bernadette says, mid 60s sounds pretty awesome to me. We get insanely warm here in Southern California. That I understand. Yes. It didn't take me long to adjust to Alaska's weather though. The temperatures, other than, I say that, but then that's because I like the cold. But the one thing I did notice when I moved to Alaska was that cold didn't feel cold anymore. So when it was 50 degrees outside, it was like a 70 or 72 degree day out in Colorado. So the temperatures have a different feel up here for sure. And hopefully when you move to Michigan, you'll feel that too, that you'll feel like you adjust quite quickly to the temperatures there. RM says, got up to 80 degrees Fahrenheit this past week in Fairbanks and Delta areas. Woo! There are areas in Alaska, believe it or not, that gets up to 100 or closer to 120 degrees here, which most people have a hard time fathoming. But it does happen in the interior of Alaska every single year. And John says, my parents in Houston, Alaska had 69 degrees today. Yep, there we go. Another warm temp here in Alaska. And those warm temps mean fire danger, because it means everything's drying out, because there's usually not a whole lot of rain that accompanies those high temperatures. And Julie says, love 60 degrees Fahrenheit. We had 98 degrees here in Central California today. I think I would be melted. Norm says, my lab used to do the same thing in the flower beds. Yep, that's my boy. He sees that cool dirt. What's funny is I've never seen him dig before. No, that's not true. He did dig under my porch back in Colorado, my deck, that is, off the back of the house. But only one hole, and then he just would hang out there under the deck. But once I built the dog run up in front of the cabin, he started digging holes and laying in them. I think it's too warm for him, so he's trying to find the coolest spot underneath the ground there. Unfortunately, though, I covered up his dig spot with the new garden bed. And Bren says, Alone, do you have any plans to do some outdoor timber painting on your logs? Yes, actually, I do. I'm on the fence as to what I should do. The logs that I have on the cabin now are actually painted. And I know there's a lot of people who say, it's a mortal sin to paint wood. But I'm on the fence about whether I just pressure wash them, power wash the logs, and just repaint them, because I want a very specific color tone to the logs, which is dark like they are now. Or do I take the time and sand them down, soda blast them, whatever, and then have them stained, chinked and stained? I don't think the chinking is really going to work on my cabin, because I have D logs, and the gap between the logs is literally about the gap between my fingers there, in most areas of the logs. So I don't know that chinking, and they're kind of flatter profile logs, I don't know that chinking is going to work. And so I'm half tempted to just power wash and paint the cabin the dark brown that I want. But either way, it's got to get done because I do need to seal up the gaps that there are in between some of the logs and get those remedied so that I can make sure that the cabin is properly insulated before next winter. Though I don't know when I'll be doing the outside of the cabin, to be quite honest. And Bill over at Alaska's Last Frontier says to Bernadette, you should come up to Alaska. And John Feeney, Bill is saying to you, it was very warm today. I was in shorts and no t-shirt. Yeah, there is the when I came up to Alaska for a cruise and I was down in Juneau, and the boat captain on an excursion that I'd taken had said, yeah, it's pretty common if the temperatures get above 50 degrees, you'll see a lot of people out in just shorts and t-shirts and flip-flops. But even here in the area where I live, at about 30-35 degrees, you'll see a lot of people who are outside without a jacket on. They just have on a short sleeve t-shirt and jeans. You warm up really, really quickly when you get acclimated to the cold, for sure. And JR says, spent 3 years flying out of Traverse City in North Michigan. Beautiful when tourists leave. That's how I feel about Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is one of my favorite spots to visit. If you get there early in the morning, just as the sun has come up, it's a sleepy little town. It's absolutely gorgeous, set right on Lake Coeur d'Alene. But then give it a little bit of time and all the tourists are out and about and the roads are crowded and there's people everywhere and it's noisy and it's just like any other city. But you get there at the right time of the day and it is so serene and absolutely beautiful. And Bernadette says, yes, I'm going to be quite close to the UP without actually being in it. Well, hopefully get a chance to go explore it. And if you do, bring us along with you. I don't know if you're planning on doing a channel, but if you are, we'd like to see for sure. And George, how are you doing tonight? George says, family went in June on a cruise to Alaska, blown away by the beauty of the state. Would recommend anyone to go, but cruising is still a risk. All of us got Wuhan Fauci virus. Next time may fly. Yeah. The cruises, the other issue that I have with the cruises is that unless you're going to do a rail tour that takes you into the interior of Alaska, you're really only seeing the shoreline of Alaska. And after, so many ports, they all start to kind of look alike, at least the businesses there, because a lot of them are owned by the cruise companies. And the other thing is that you're going to find that you don't really meet a lot of Alaskans. You're going to meet people from the rest of the US that have come to Alaska to work these seasonal jobs. Or from other countries like Russia and what have you, but you won't really see a lot of Alaskans. So after I took my cruise up to Alaska, I said, if ever I came back up again to visit, that I was going to find an outfitter in the interior of Alaska, fly in, stay at some random cabin and have them show me the true Alaska. So there's different ways of seeing Alaska for sure, but that's the one I recommend. And I'm sorry to hear that your family got sick, by the way. That's not fun. And hopefully everyone's recovered and getting better if not. Alaska's Last Frontier says, George, most people fly into Anchorage and then rent an RV. That is what my son is actually going to be doing this year when he comes up. He is bringing up a couple friends of his. They're going to tour around Denali and the Kenai Peninsula and things like that for a week. And then his friends fly out and he's going to drive over and hang out with me for a week. So that'll be a lot of fun when he finally gets to be here. And Bernadette says to Bill, I was thinking about it after I got settled in North Michigan. Well, you should take the chance if you ever get it. And Happy Chappy says, we are having spaghetti tonight, my friend. Unfortunately, I have a little onion in it, but when we have it together in real life one day, I'll make sure it doesn't. Well, I would appreciate that. For those of you who are new to my channel and maybe haven't watched some of my previous videos, I have some allergies, and one of those is to onions and garlic. It's the sulfides in the onion and garlic. So I can have green onions in moderation, and I can have leeks in moderation, as well as elephant garlic. But outside of that, it's a bad idea. it'll put me down for about 3 days. So thanks for thinking of me, Happy. And Charlotte says to Bernadette, Alaska has been a dream of mine since childhood. Maybe one day I'll visit, maybe even move there from the UK. That would be fantastic. I hope you get to live your dreams for sure. And for those of you who would love to come to Alaska but just don't have the way of doing so, I hope you're living vicariously through my channel, and also channels like Rob over the Curmudgeon Inn, Alaska Cut the Cord, Big T over at Rustic Log Cabin Life, and Bill over at Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead. And RM said, oh, you make me miss the wonderful Copper River Reds and Kings. Grew up on those. Yeah, I have to tell you that the Copper River Red salmon that I ate the other day was by far the best salmon that I've ever had. And it was delightful. I actually fixed it 2 nights in a row. It was that good. So, and very, very meaty, not a whole lot of fat on it. My understanding is that if the person had caught it out in the ocean, that it'd have more fat, and that by the time they make it into the rivers, they have thinned out a bit. So it was still really tasty though. And Bill says, I know where you can get a new snowblower on tracks. Well, get in touch with me, Bill. You know how. And let's figure out how I can get that, because I definitely need one for next winter. And Nanny Go Acres is in the house. Hi, Nanny. How are you doing tonight? Nanny says 93 degrees in far northeast Texas today. However, raining now. I fish often. So much fun. I have a stocked small lake on my property. Ooh, I'm jealous. I would love to have a stocked lake on my property. That's got to be fantastic. And yeah, I'm so anxious to go fishing. I can't even tell you. It's like all I talk about anymore. Anytime I get a chance to talk to any of my friends or family, I'm like, so you want to hear about fishing? They're like, did you go? Nope, not yet. But I still want to talk about it. And George says, Alaska's Last Frontier. Thanks for the tip. Love the good road trips. Yes, road trips are one of my favorite things to do as well. And Happy Chappy says, well, I'm going to watch. I know you will, and I really appreciate it too. Alaska's Last Frontier says, holy cow, 48 hours of editing. That's just crazy. It is crazy. But what's crazier is how long it took me to do the things that the video is about. Normally when I'm editing a video, it's like a couple hours maybe of footage that I just need to whittle down to 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. This was days of footage that I had to whittle down. It was like I just set the camera and filmed for hours and hours and hours at a time, and it took forever to edit it. But I hope it's a good video nonetheless. I hope you guys enjoy it. Bernadette says to Charlotte and Dave, I wish you blessings if you choose to jump the pond. Me too. And RM says, do the mountains still smoke around there? Sometimes. Sorry, my mouse keeps covering up the thing. I remember Sanford and Blackburn puffing a few times when I was a kid. Yes, they do. I have some footage last year of Drum, I believe, and Blackburn, I think, were the two that were smoking last year. If you go into the national park system, they'll tell you that only one of the volcanoes behind my property is active. But I don't see how that could be if they're still smoking. So, they just let off a little bit of steam every now and then, but they say it's nothing to worry about. Who knows? But hopefully I never get to experience a cataclysmic volcano eruption from any of those mountains behind my cabin. And Delia, how are you doing tonight? Delia Garcia says, I didn't know you were going live. Sorry. Oh, no worries, Delia. I appreciate you being here, though. I didn't post the thing saying that I was going live until early this morning. So that is my bad for sure. But I'm glad you're here nonetheless. And RM says, I might have those names wrong. Yeah, it might be Drum and Blackburn, or Drum and Sanford. I don't know. I think it's Drum and Blackburn actually that were smoking. But either way, What I was told when I took the flight over the Wrangles was that only one of those mountains is an active volcano. And yet I saw two of them smoking for 2 days in a row straight. And I took time lapse footage of it. So you can see the clouds going by, but the steam's going up like this, and the clouds just keep on going, and that steam's not moving for 2 days straight. So that tells me that somebody might have their information wrong or something woke up. And Norm says, I have seen some wrap their chimneys in tubing to offset any loss as much as possible. Excuse me, I need to take a drink of water and then I'll respond to your comment, Norm. And of course, I have Perrier, so it's going to make a little bit of noise as I open the bottle. And I don't have Perrier to be fancy. Sorry for clearing my throat there. I have Perrier because I found that I wasn't really drinking water when I was just pulling it out of the Berkey. The water tastes great and everything. I just don't have the desire to go down and get a drink of water. And so I figure if I just carry around one of these, I tend to drink a little bit more water, and it seems to be working. But back to Norm's question. So I do have a double wall chimney that runs from the second floor all the way through the roof. I've seen other people that have triple wall chimneys, and my understanding is that if you can get triple wall, it will help to retain that heat even more. But wrapping the chimney, that I'm gonna have to look into. That I am not familiar with. And Happy says, is your contractor and his son staying with you this summer? So they will also be back out, but just for a short stay in early August. They are coming out so that he can stain the front post that he replaced last year and take care of a couple little things around the property. But he isn't doing any major work on the cabin until next summer. Hopefully, if his schedule doesn't book up before I get on his calendar. But yeah, he'll be here for at least a little bit. And I'm so excited to see both him and his son. I want to see how much his son has grown for sure. George says, would love to attend services at St. Michael's Orthodox Church in Sitka. I only got to visit for a few minutes when we visited during a port of call. Oh, I bet it's beautiful. In fact, as I was driving down along the Kenai Peninsula, there were some churches down there as well that I was just like, wow, it is so beautiful down here. So if ever you get the opportunity to do so, I hope that you get the time to do so as well. And Bernadette says, yikes, that's a lot of heating costs. My new home is very small. Yeah, I do have to admit that the heating costs here are kind of outrageous, to say the least. So the energy cost here on this side of Alaska is 23 cents a kilowatt hour. Back in Colorado, I believe I paid 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So it's almost 3 times or just greater than 3 times that here. And then on top of the energy cost, you have the oil, which ran at, I think, $4.99 or something like that, a gallon. And then, like I said, a cord of wood is around $385 for a 2-year seasoned birch. And I believe it's the same cost whether you're buying spruce or birch. I just prefer to burn birch because it has higher BTUs, and we don't really have any other hardwoods here in Alaska. So, but I hope your heating costs stay down since you have a smaller cabin. And Bernadette says cats help. Yes, I should get a cat. Unfortunately, Kenai does not like other animals. So at some point when Kenai passes, I will be getting a cat and some other dogs all at the same time so that they are familiar with each other and don't have any aggression, I hope. And Jared says to Bernadette, depending on home size and location, it can cost $1,000 a month for heating. Yes, it can be quite costly. And George says, perhaps a cat. They're known to like mice with or without side dishes. That's hilarious. Deb says, my cat appears to want to make friends with the voles. Oh my goodness. That would be too funny. Kenai, we had a vole that was in the cabin, and we also had an ermine that was in the Arctic entry. And Kenai didn't care. He could care less. He was just like, okay, have fun. But when it's an actual mouse or when it's a squirrel, that he hears. He hasn't actually seen the squirrel, but when he hears the squirrel, he does not like those. He's just like, I don't want any part of that. So it's funny that he knows the difference between the squirrel and the ermine, and he knows the difference between the shrew and the mouse. Pretty smart, if you ask me. And Happy says, oh, I just wanted to say I made some natural mozzie repellent for when I was in the Pacific or Papua New Guinea. Sorry. I'm so used to saying Pacific Northwest, but Papua New Guinea, which has malaria. I use coconut oil as a base, lemon oil, lavender oil, all organic. I hope it worked for you for sure. I know that mine that I posted a recipe for a couple of videos back, I love it. It absolutely works. And does DEET. So if I had run out of mine and I had to use DEET, I would. But if I had both, I would choose my recipe, which is all natural like yours, hands down over the DEET. I don't want to spray that chemical on me whatsoever. And I don't want to getting on Kenai either. Uh, but I also don't want you getting malaria. So I hope it really, really worked. And Norm says, lots of much needed work has been done. Will be nice to see the changes and improvements completed. Yes, there is still so much work to be done here on the cabin. It's, it's funny because when I bought the cabin, I knew it needed a lot of work. And in my head, I was kind of running down the numbers of, okay, this should cost around this and this and this and this to do this. But the more you start to do, the more you uncover that needs to be done. Sometimes things are hidden because of something else. And once you remove that, then you see the new issue. And sometimes there's just things that you just don't take into account. And I will say that the list of projects that I had when I got here has quadrupled, if not gone an infinite amount beyond that. So yeah, there's a lot of work that this old cabin still needs. But luckily, I was able to get it livable after that first year, because this cabin, I don't think would be standing if I hadn't done the work that I've done so far. And Brent says, Alone, do you plan on having a smokehouse to smoke fish or meats? I do, actually. I would love to build a smokehouse myself here on the property. So I do have plans to put an outdoor kitchen behind the cabin. And when that happens, I'm hoping to add a smoker to it, and also some other unique features to make it my own, because as you might know, I'm a unique character and I don't do anything cookie cutter, let's just put it that way. So hopefully that kitchen goes in next summer. I don't think it'll be going up this summer at all. There's just still too much work to be done this summer that needs to take place before it can even go in the ground. So, but yes, definitely. And Happy says, I know you don't drink alcohol much, but do you drink wine? I don't drink wine because, as I mentioned earlier about the allergy that I have to onions and garlic, it's actually the sulfides that are in those two vegetables that cause the allergy. And those same sulfides are also in red grapes. I can have green grapes without an issue, and like green grape juice, but I can't drink wine, whether it's white wine or red wine. I can't drink it without having an allergic reaction. And the same thing goes for dried fruits. So things like dried apricots usually are treated with sulfur. And sometimes the sulfur has the same reaction as the sulfites do. So even though they're not really the same compound. But yeah, unfortunately, not a wine drinker. But if I am going to drink something, typically I'm drinking a Guinness. If I'm drinking hard alcohol, which is very, very rare that I would, it would be rum. That's my preferred hard alcohol of choice. And my preferred alcoholic drink is actually a hot buttered rum. That is actually in the fall. One of those is a great nightcap for sure. Hi, Seashell B. How you doing tonight? Haven't seen you in a little bit, but I'm so glad you're here. Seashell says, hello, Alone and everyone. Loved your sewing room video. Do you have any sewing projects planned or in progress? I do actually have one that is in progress. I don't have, this is a little TMI, I guess. I don't have a house coat or a robe. And so I'm in the process of sewing myself a couple of robes, one for the winter months and one for the summer months. And I started that when I first moved into the cabin, and I got the collar, well, a piece of the collar sewn into the back of the winter robe. And that's as far as I've made it. So once I finish getting the sewing room all set up, then I plan on sitting down and getting those robes completed. But I just bought some bookcases to complete the one wall, so I could have more organized storage than the two shelves that were in there previously, because it was kind of an eyesore and bothering me. So I got some bookshelves in there that I found on Craigslist, and that room is coming together quite nicely. So hopefully I'll have that done in the next, I don't know, month, and be able to sit down and sew. And hopefully I'll be able to show you guys some of the things that I have planned as well for sewing. And Norm says, just drive across the mountain and the temp will change, and sometimes the weather itself. Yep, that's true too. When I first moved here, I had a hard time finding out what the weather was going to be, because I wasn't using the NOAA app, National Oceanic and Atmospheric app. And the weather app that's on the phone was reading the weather out of Valdez. And I was like, Valdez is, a 2-hour drive away from me. The weather is not the same in Valdez as it is further north. And so I had a hard time figuring out what the weather was going to be. But now I use NOAA's app, and I can pinpoint directly to my cabin and get pinpointed weather. So that's very nice. So if you're moving someplace that doesn't have a weather station, that's what I recommend using, is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's app for sure. And you'll get better weather coverage than you would anywhere else. And Byron says, when you have a free day to cut loose and do whatever you want, what does that look like? If I have the day where I can just do whatever I want, typically that is, if the funds allow it, it's getting in the car and going for a scenic tour. I absolutely love to drive. It's one of my favorite things to do, is to go out and just see new things. So if I can find an old dirt road to turn down and just, I don't care how short or how long it might be. But if I can do that, that's my favorite thing to do. And go fishing. Those are, I would say, the top of the list right there. And Big T over at Rustic Log Cabin Life says, it's been kind of a dull summer weather-wise, but hoping for a hot July. Well, you're an unusual one there, Big T, at least in my circle of acquaintances, because wow, hot July. Yeah. Well, I can see it though, because it's been a bit cool, but I'm still looking for those colder days. Really, I'm hoping that it doesn't actually get hot here. And Delia says, hello, Alone. Hello, Delia. And Bill over at Alaska's Last Frontier says, we just had a beautiful sunset. I had to run out and catch it with my drone. Beautiful. What time is it? It's 12 o'clock. Yeah, I don't even know. Let's see. I can't really see out the window right now. Oh, yep. It's still blue skies outside right now. Sorry for dipping off the camera there. But the sun, if I were to go out back and look behind the mountains, I bet you there's pink all behind those mountains right now. And Norm says, well, complete work in the workshop. Got to go to bed. Get up early. Good night from Henrico County, Virginia. Well, good night, Norm, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you on the next live stream. And Happy says, I definitely agree regarding the temperature for some reason. Negative 30 is very comfortable unless any part of you is wet or you have sweated in your gloves or anything. I agree. So for me, negative 40 and 40 above are like the sweet spots. Like it's comfortable out at negative 40, negative 45, as long as there's no wind. Also is the other thing that I would say. If there's wind, it's worse. But there's not really any humidity at negative 40. The worst temperatures for me here in Alaska are the 10 above and 10 below zero, because the humidity is high typically on those days. And if there's humidity, you feel it. You feel it all the way in your bones. But outside of that range, it's actually not that bad. unless there's wind or you're wet, like Happy said. And Happy says, so does this mean you have a deer-proof garden? I hope so. We'll find out if the moose decide to challenge the fence. But I think it's going to hold. I think that it'll be fine for the moose. But I can't guarantee that if a bear were to come along, that I would be in good condition being in there, because it's not going to hold a bear out. There's no way. And Happy says, random, but do you knit or crochet? I do not knit or crochet. I have the items to do so. But I tried to learn how to do both when I was a kid, and I just didn't have the patience for it. I couldn't figure it out. I probably just wasn't interested more than anything as a child. But I do tatting. So I have tatting needles and I can tat. But I'm very new at it and very slow at it. So it's something that I just need to pick up the needle when I have the shuttle, that is, when I have some downtime, and just do it. And I'm sure I could pick it up and get faster at it. But right now I'm really slow. I have to keep watching what I'm doing so I get those picos correct. And RM says, clear finish sealer over the burn. Clear finish sealer over the burn. Are you talking about clear finish? I'm not following. Sorry. It's probably from something we said earlier and it just isn't registering at the moment. But yeah, hopefully you can reply back down below and let me know what that's in reference to, because I'm not following. I do apologize. And George says, pet grizzly bear would make any garden deer proof. We keep destroying the green areas around San Antonio where the deer used to live. Enjoy your wildlife. It's sad when we dislodge them. I agree. I absolutely agree. I think it's sad too when old buildings get torn down. It's like it's nostalgic and it's part of history and what have you. And I'm one of those where I kind of wish things would kind of just slow down and stay, and things didn't change so rapidly. But at least where I'm at right now, it still feels like the Old West in many, many ways. I'm not the only person that says it. Other people who live in this community say the same thing. And we're very fortunate that it's that way here in this area of Alaska. And Charlotte and Dave say, don't like the heat, especially when it's humid. T-shirt stuck to you. Can't sleep. It's not pleasant. Autumn and fall is my favorite season. Yes, same here. I do love winter. To be honest with you, I was thinking the other day that, in fact, even this morning, I was thinking that I was like, man, I wish winter was here again. And we haven't even hit summer, to be, honest. And yet I have to admit that I like the cooler weather, and I do like the the rain and the fog and the cold temperatures of both autumn and spring. I think those are the most beautiful, at least to the eye. And Larry Mullins says, hello, alone and all from Maine. Well, hello, Larry. Thank you for being here with us tonight and joining into the chat. So glad you could. And Carrie Ann says, hello, my friend. So great to see you. Same to you, Carrie Ann. I hope you're not at work, but I have a feeling you are tonight. Either way, I appreciate you listening in and popping in when you have a moment. And Alaska's Last Frontier says, if your son needs or wants a place to park for a night or so, I have room, and possibly take them out to my cabin for a night. Well, I will let him know for sure. And if we can arrange it, we'll get in touch with you for sure, Bill. I appreciate the offer, and I'm sure he does too, because I'm sure finding a camp spot might be difficult for when he's coming out still. And George says, yep, ports look like the ones elsewhere. Got to meet some nice Alaskans, so it was a pleasure. We're all fine. My son has Alaska on his wish list for a future home. Alaska was worth the bug. Well, that's good to know, but I still feel sorry that you got it nonetheless. But yeah, if he has the opportunity to move up here, I sure hope he takes it. JR says, keep the Benadryl handy. Yes, that I do. I actually keep a bottle of Claritin with me at all times. But unfortunately, neither the Benadryl or the Claritin really do a whole lot for the type of allergy that I have. So they're not immunoglobulin affecting allergies. So I don't have swelling in like my blood vessels or capillaries, my bronchial tubes, anything like that from those. I do have them from other things, so I keep those in an EpiPen handy. But the sulfite allergies, what they do is they actually only affect the right side of my body. And I don't know why it's only the right side, but it is. And what it does is it basically causes swelling on the right side of my body only in the joints. So my spine, my shoulder, elbow, knees, hips, all of that, they lock up. And I get a massive headache, and it can last up to 3 days. So if those things would work, I would definitely take them. But unfortunately, between myself and doctors that I've seen, nobody's been able to find anything that can touch the pain that I'm in when I have an allergic reaction like that. So I am pretty diligent, but even at that, I am guilty of eating things that I shouldn't eat, which is why I was sick down in Homer, because I decided to have eggs Benedict, and eggs is one of the other things that I have to kind of stay away from. So I'm guilty of sometimes being a glutton. And Happy says, hey, what's your favorite foods ever? Are you an Italian girl, roast dinner, steak, chips, etc.? So if you were to ask me, what would be my go-to meal, it would be a ribeye steak, homemade French fries, and a Guinness. That would be it right there. But if you're asking me what type of food do I eat most frequently, it would be Asian foods. Asian cuisine is probably my go-to daily fix type of a food. But Italian food, I do love the flavors, but unfortunately, there's a lot of garlic in it, sometimes onion, and sometimes the tomatoes have an issue with me as well. So I tend to stay away from my Italian, but roast, not so much. Steak, yes. And like I said, Asian food for sure. And Bill says to Big T over at Rustic Like Heaven Life, um, are you in Alaska? What part? So Big T, hopefully you're still on and you can reply to Bill. And if not, I'll get you two in touch with each other. And John, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. That is so kind of you. And John says, what's your opinion of Alaska Airlines? I like using them, but most friends in the lower 48 don't when flying to Alaska. I love Alaska Airlines, to be honest with you. I have no issue with them. I've always had wonderful flights. The service has always been good on those flights. Um, and I have a friend who flew up on Southwest, and I think it was not Southwest, on, I don't know, some other airline um, outside of Alaska Airlines. And after that flight, they swore they would never fly anybody but Alaska again. Because when they flew on Alaska, they didn't have any issues, just like I have stated. But when they were on this other airline, and it was, I wish I could remember the name of the airline that they were flying on. But, you know, common brand name airline. And they said it was nothing but trouble getting to Alaska. Switch gates and delays and rude service and things like that. So I love Alaska Airlines, though. I think they're great. And if you're coming to Alaska frequently, or you live in Alaska and you need to fly down to the lower 48 frequently, if you get their Alaska credit card, a lot of times they have mileage deals with them, and you can get a buddy pass as part of that. And a lot of times those can save you a lot of money on getting someone up here with you, or taking someone back down to the lower 48 with you as well. And Happy says, so a heads up, my friend, next time we chat live, I will be in another state visiting family in New South Wales, leaving far north Queensland for good on Friday. Oh, wow. 4 or 5 day drive with the 3 pup babies. Ooh, that's a long drive. I hope you and the puppies stay safe on that road trip. And let's see here. And then I say visiting family. So you're going to be visiting New South Wales, and then you're leaving North Queensland for good. Oh my goodness. You have quite the adventure ahead of you. I need to check out and see what's happening for sure. That's a lot. I hope it all goes well. And Delia says, I'm doing well alone. Thank you. That's good. I'm so glad to hear that, Delia. And George says, try a bit of lemon juice in your water. Makes it a bit more enjoyable. Yes, I did buy some lemon just recently. And I'm guilty of just taking the lemons and throwing them in the freezer. And then when I need one, just slicing off what I need. But this time I made a point to juice it and put the juice in the freezer and grind the rind up. So I have both lemon peel and juice available when I need them both, as opposed to throwing the whole lemon in the freezer. And Bill says, I just emailed you where you can get an Aaron's tracked snowblower. Thank you for that, Bill. I appreciate it. I'll be sure to check out for that email. And JR says to John, my last trip to Alaska was on Delta on someone else's dime. So it was first class and was a great flight. That helps too when you get to fly first class and you're not the one paying for it. And Bill says, how are the pterodactyl mosquitoes? They are out in full force here at my homestead and also up at my off-grid cabin in Petersville. They are the same here. I'm seeing very few of the small mosquitoes yet. They're still just the giant state birds here at the moment, and they're in swarms. So I know you can't see it behind me, but on the file cabinet behind me, that black one right there, I have a thermocell spiral smudge thing burning right now to keep the mosquitoes at bay, because anytime you open the door, you get about 100 of them in the door every time it opens. They're really, really bad this year. And from my understanding is everyone's saying the same thing. And Happy says that recipe 100% worked. Yay, I'm so glad it did. I want to keep you safe for sure. And Happy says 150% even was able to show locals how to make it so that they could stay safe. If you grate fresh lemon peel, it's divine. I bet. I would think that having that fresh lemon in there is going to make all the difference in it too. But yeah, I'm glad that you stayed safe. And RM is asking you for your recipe. And Deb says, one project begets 5 more. We thought we were close to having our reno done, but ended up having to tear out the entire tub and shower to replace some busted pipes. And that is one of the reasons why I have a dry cabin. Oops, I just moved my camera. Let me fix that. I touched it with my foot, stretching my legs out. Sorry about that, folks. But that is the reason that I have a dry cabin, is because busted pipes are the worst. So I hope that you didn't wind up having too much damage from the water and everything. But oh, it's no fun when you think you're done and then you find out you got more to do and it's even more costly. And George says, two for dill, things to do take twice as much effort, twice as long, twice as expensive. Unless it's a government project, then factor is 100 times. I agree. No bureaucracy here, but yes, everything seems to be more expensive and take a lot longer than you expect it to. And Happy says, rum it is, my friend. I'll bring some Aussie stuff over. Hey, have you made a Guinness pie before? A definite must do if you haven't. I have not made a Guinness pie yet, but if ever I do make one of my meat pies, it has Guinness in it. And it's yummy. George says, Shiner makes great beers here in Texas for your summer enjoyment. Well, I will have to look them up and give them a try. And JR says, I got so sick on rum once, I thought I would die. Afraid I wouldn't. What? Yeah, that's a lot of rum. Yeah, I don't usually drink to the point that I get sick. Thank goodness. I know when to call it quits. Usually for me, it's one drink and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I can feel, that it's starting. I don't need to go beyond that. And Bernadette says, what kind of sewing machine do you have? I will have to go check out your sewing video. I'm a sewist too. So I actually have 4 machines. I have a 1800s Yukon shuttle bobbin machine. I have a Majestic 15, which I don't know who made that, but I believe it's a Singer or a Singer knockoff, and I think it's from the early 1900s. And then I have a Singer for whatever reason, I can't remember what singer it is, but it is from the early 1900s as well, and it's electric. And then I also have just my standard electric sewing machine, which is nothing fancy. But it's the only one that really works that I know of. The others need some repair or some part to make them functional. JR says to George, Shiner, small town beer, good stuff. Well, that's good to know. I'm definitely going to look it up. And Larry says, maybe a motorcycle to take a scenic cruise. Yeah, a motorcycle would be great if you know how to drive one. But yeah, I like Jeeps. So for me, when I was back in Colorado, I was overlanding in Colorado in the Pacific Northwest, and I would take my Jeep out everywhere. I always laughed when I was sitting at a stoplight next to another Jeep that was all decked out, had all the toys and was shiny and not a scratch on it. And my Jeep was filthy and packed to the brim full of camping gear, but you couldn't see it because of the way that I had it in there. It was incognito essentially, but I was always giggling because I was like, my Jeep is not fully decked out like yours is, and it has seen a lot more dirt and a lot more land and a lot more amazing sights than your pristine vehicle ever will. I didn't have Jeep envy at all of their toys because I knew that they were probably too afraid to take it off road. Um, but yeah, if you can ever get out by road to see Alaska, not like there's a whole lot of roads here, it is a great way to see Alaska, though. You do get to see a lot of really cool things that you wouldn't get to see from a cruise for sure. George says, when I took care of folks with high school pressure, I would have them think of their favorite fishing hole. um, high blood pressure, high school. Wow, I need to get my eyes checked here. High blood pressure. Blood pressure dropped faster than meds I gave them would take effect. That I believe. That I believe. That might be why when I went to get my blood pressure checked one time, they told me that my blood pressure was so incredibly low. They were worried about me, probably because I was thinking about going fishing after the doctor's appointment. And George says to JR, Shiner is the oldest craft beer down there in Texas. That's pretty cool. And JR says, spent 2 years just west of there in SA. I'm not sure what SA stands for. And John says, as for the late, great Johnny Horton said, when it's springtime in Alaska, it's 40 below. When I'm home, my elk hounds dogs, when I'm home, my elk hounds, and I love 40 to negative 40. Great hikes, no ticks or mosquitoes. Exactly. One thing about 40 degrees above here in Alaska is that's when the black flies come out. As soon as it hits 40 degrees, you're guaranteed to see black flies. And Michelle Stevens, how are you doing tonight? Michelle says, hi from Horse Creek, Queensland, Australia. We in our winter now. Oh, yes, winter. It is nice and cool where you're at. Well, hopefully you guys have a mild winter, but I do appreciate you being here with us in the chat tonight, and I hope to see you again in future chats as well. And RM says, the chat thread deleted the first part of my message. I had suggested to sand your logs, then do a torch burn with clear finish. Very beautiful. Oh, yes. Shiogi, something like that. It's a Japanese technique of singeing the wood, and it brings out the resins and kinds to help waterproof them at the same point of providing a finish, and then you just seal it off. I think that's a fabulous idea, and I appreciate that very much. And Bill over at Alaska's Last Frontier is saying, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Yes, I agree. Happy Father's Day to every one of you. There I go, hitting the camera again. I apologize for that. But happy Father's Day. I hope you all have a wonderful day and you get to see your children and spend some wonderful quality time with them. RM says, see Montana Haven, Alaska edition to see what burn logs on a cabin can look like. I will definitely check out their video on their burn logs. And Toys R Us Kid, how are you doing tonight? Says, I've watched you for a while, but never chat. Much love and respect from the Pacific Northwest in Oregon. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being in the chat with us tonight. George says, did nursing in rural hospitals for my last 7 years in healthcare. rural culture is so much different than the urban mess. This is true for sure. It's a different way of life, and usually it's a lot more relaxed and a lot more um, self-sustaining as well. Happy Chappy says, do you feel like a tour guide for Alaska sometimes? I know I do. Yes, at times, for sure. I definitely do. Sometimes I feel like I should probably get a job with the tourism board. And Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead says, you describing your allergy and what happens to you would make a good video. Just saying. Yeah, probably. So I don't ever think of it though, unless I'm actually having an allergic reaction. And hello, List. How you doing tonight? List, please me says just a quick hello. So glad to see you again in the chat. I appreciate you being here with us tonight. Miss seeing you around. And JR says, oh, and by the way, I hope you're doing good as well, List. And JR says, just remember 50% of doctors in the world finish in the bottom of the class in medical school. And the person that finishes last is still a doctor. This is true. This is very, very true. And Happy says, have you found a banh mi in Alaska or only homemade? I've not found a true banh mi in Alaska, but what I did find was down in Valdez, and I'll show this in an upcoming video as well. I found a banh mi crunch wrap at the at the Nat Shack. So it's a portable food truck, and they have crunch wraps, and they have a banh mi crunch wrap that is absolutely delicious. I ate it last year when I was there with my son, and I just got one not too long ago when I was in Valdez, and so tasty. It's not quite the same as a banh mi sandwich, but it's a good replacement nonetheless. If you find one, let me know for sure. And Rustic Like Heaven Life says, I live in Willow in the Sistina Valley. Sistina Valley, yep. And Bill is replying to Big T and saying, I'm near Long Lake. And Toys R Us says, hit the like button. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And JR says, after listening to airline pilots on the radio for 26 years, there are airlines I won't fly on. I can imagine when you get the inside scoop, it makes you realize who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with for sure. And by work, I mean even patronize. And Charlotte and Dave says, going to have breakfast now. Been nice talking to you alone. Speak next time. Stay safe. Well, thank you, Charlotte and Dave. I hope you guys have a wonderful breakfast and that you stay safe as well. And I'll see you on the next one. And JR is saying, good one to the Toys R Us kid. And RM says to JR, care to share who you will fly with? And Toys R Us kid is giving JR a heart. George says, I had some really good pelmeni when we were in Sitka and Juneau. Not quite like my babushkas, but quite good. Sour cream is a must. Dillweed adds the finishing touch. So if you want a good Russian restaurant here in Alaska, there is one down in Tonsina along the Richardson Highway as you're heading south out of Glen Allen and heading down towards Valdez. It is really, really good. So she offers both Russian and American cuisine, but she has some authentic, because she's Russian herself, Russian dishes that are quite tasty and makes your mouth water. Just like thinking about it makes your mouth water. So if you're looking for a good restaurant here on this side of the state, there are a few places that I can recommend. The Tonsina Lodge is one. Nummies in Copper Center is another one. Ernesto's in Glen Allen is an authentic Mexican restaurant. They're good. Nummies serves typical American cuisine, but it is fantastic, top notch. Um, and then the other one is the Nat Shack down in Valdez is also one that I recommend. So there's 4 places that I can definitely recommend here in this side of the state. Oh, and sorry about that. JR says corporate 91 and 135. And Big T over at Rustic Log Cabin Life says, Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead. I'm on the Burrow Street up Fishhook Road. And RM says, understood. Thank you. And Alaska's Last Frontier says, life, you are real close to where he's at. And JR says to RM, Southwest has some good pilots as they are required to invest in the company. Last time I knew it was a minimum of $5,000. Wow, that's something I did not know. That's pretty cool. Thank you for providing that information, JR. And JR says it was in a war zone. Gotcha. Gotcha. And Happy Chappy says, I am very much enjoying this, my friend. Again, it's been a long month, so to connect with you is a gift. Well, thank you for that, Happy. I really appreciate it. You always warm my heart and bring a smile to my face. And MP, so nice of you to be here tonight. MP says, have a nice Sunday, everybody. Pride flowers, pansexual. I can't read that last word. Mandalone. Well, have a happy Sunday to you too. And I wish you all the best. Thank you for being here tonight. And JR says the investment in the airline will keep out the low timers and wannabes. Yep, low hanging fruit for sure. And Toys R Us Kid says, Happy Father's Day to all the dads. Well, thank you again for putting that out there to all the dads. I'm sure they appreciate it as well. And Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead says, I love taking my doors and tops off when I had a Jeep. I dream of buying another Jeep. Yeah, I would get another Jeep, except for the fact that I would want an older Jeep when it was still made by Jeep, when they were still a metal body, and also I don't know. I think my next vehicle is going to be a truck, to be honest with you. I need a truck for hauling things because anytime I need to haul a piece of furniture, I'm having to call on someone in the community to take me into town. And I feel really bad for doing that. So it's like, I want a truck. And I would like to also get a truck so that I can haul water in greater quantities than just using the little 5 and 6 gallon jerry cans that I'm currently using. So I think a truck is in my future. And RM says to JR, that makes good sense. Thank you. Bren says, I must say bye for now. It's movie night here for my house. Popcorn is ready. Thanks alone for the fun catch up. Bye, everyone. Bye, Bren. I hope you have a fun time watching your movie, and I will see you on the next one. And we're going to have some goodbyes here from everyone saying goodnight to Brun. And hello, Rainey Hammond. How are you doing tonight? So glad to see you again. And Rainey says, hello, everyone. George says there are a lot of Texans with decked out trucks and Jeeps that they drive like sports cars, organ donors on 4 wheels. Exactly. That's how I think about it for sure. And people on motorcycles too that speed on their motorcycles. I was watching a guy the other day on a motorcycle, and I just thought, oh my goodness, you obviously have either no desire to make it to your next birthday, or you're just not aware of the danger you're putting yourself and others in because you're going so fast and cutting in and out of traffic. It's so scary. And Bernadette says, so now that I can see the word, I'm not going to be able to read it. Soshigaban. I know I'm saying it wrong. When I hear the word, it makes sense. And then I think I'm saying it correctly in my head. But then when I read the word, so far off. Oh my goodness. But there's the word for the wood burning, Japanese wood burning technique. Thank you for putting that up, Bernadette. I really appreciate it, even though I totally messed it up trying to say it. And Bill says, have a good night to Brun. And then put up Montana Havens, Alaska edition channel link for everybody. So thank you for putting that up, Bill. I appreciate it. And I'm sure they'd appreciate it if you go check out their channel. And Bernadette says, Japanese wood burning is a sansugaban, not correct spelling. Gotcha. And Rainey says, is it hard to find a remote land at a good price? Well, I think that depends upon what you're looking for in that land and what you consider to be a good price. I know that land in certain areas can be bought for around $5,000 an acre. But it's a matter of finding the right size lot that you're looking for and what have you. I know 5-acre lots are pretty common. You can also find holdings all the way up to 400 lot or 400 acres, 960 acres, just depending upon what you're looking for and how much money you have to spend. The one thing that I would caution about if you're looking to move to Alaska is to never buy land sight unseen. For example, I mentioned this on one of my last live streams as well. There was a piece of property that I was seriously looking at buying, that sat in the Wrangell St. Elias National Park. And from the aerial views, it looked like it was maybe one of two or three other cabins on this lake. And the road didn't seem like it was very well traveled and everything. But then the more I began to look at the land, I realized that that's the only road that really leads into the park for any real tourist activity in the park, meaning that 60,000 tourists travel into the park via that road every single year. So it got a lot of traffic. The other thing I realized is when I actually drove the road to go out to McCarthy, that the area where the cabin set was quite populated. There were a lot more homesteads back in there than what I could see from Google Earth. And there were cars parked all alongside the road. Even if you had access to the lake, you weren't going to be the only one, and there was public access to the lake. And a lot of times, what you're going to find too is that the land will look one way in the photos that they'll put online, but when you actually get and walk on the land, you find it's a whole different terrain, meaning that it might look like it's buildable land, and then you get there and it's actually marshy or boggy, where you can't build on it, you can't traverse it, you can't even drive down the road to get to it. So I do recommend that you walk any land that you're looking at. But there is land available in Alaska still. The prices, I think, are going up compared to what they were, as they are all over the place. But there seems to be an increase, even though the statistics say that the population of Alaska is declining. I think that when they do the next census, you're probably going to see that the population has gone up a little bit, partly because of the C virus, and also partly because of people just have an interest in the state again. And the state is um, the one last place where we truly have freedoms in this country. There's a lot of freedoms that are here that are being taken away elsewhere. So I think that's one of the reasons why you're going to see an increase of price and population here. And hello, Katie Bell. How are you doing tonight? Katie says, hi, everyone from Sunday night in New South Wales, Australia. So glad you could join us in the chat. I really appreciate you being here. And let's see, it is 12:38 right now, my time here in Alaska. And so I'll be on for about another 20 minutes. If you missed the first part of the live stream, you can always go back and watch this on a replay, because it is available to watch at a later date as well. And JR says, remember all, the next live here will be Monday night at 5 p.m. Alaska time. Be here or be square. Thank you for that, JR. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you, John, for the super chat. John says, between your channel and Sean, Alaska makes me homesick. When I retire, leaving the lower 48 and home to the midnight sun. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate that you want to be back in Alaska. Alaska is such a beautiful place. And once you come here, it's hard to ever let go of it. Whether you just visited or you grew up here or you lived here, the longer you're here, the more it grabs a hold of your heartstrings for sure. And Happy says, has the fuel prices gone down at all? Not much, if anything. I saw the fuel prices were still on this side of the state at about $4.75, 74 cents a gallon, and 384. Was it 384? Yeah, I think it was still 384 in Palmer the last time I looked. So the gas prices really haven't come down much, if anything. When I first moved here, the gas prices were below $4 a gallon. I think it was like $3.95 or something a gallon on this side of the state. And so it's gone up almost $1 since then. Though at one point it was higher. At one point it was over $6 here for a gallon of gas, which is outrageous. And George says, thanks for the restaurant tips. I like to pass on good places to eat to folks down here as well. Good food needs to be shared. I agree. And I'm sure they appreciate it as well because it means that they're going to get some business. And I like to see restaurants that know how to cook food stay in business. That's for sure. And JR says to Happy Chappy, gas here in South Oregon has gone up $1 a gallon. Yeeks. And Happy says, have you made cheese yet? I have not made cheese yet. I've been a little bit leery about whether or not to do it, but I am going to try my hand at making cream cheese because I have some of that cream that I froze in the Ziploc bags. And I kind of want to use it up. It's not really the best cream for drinking. It's not the fact that I froze the cream that makes it not suitable for drinking. It's the fact that I froze it in the Ziploc bags. And I'll explain that in a future video as well as to why I don't recommend doing that. But I do plan on making some cream cheese for sure. Because that is one thing that I do enjoy, and fresh cream cheese is so much better than the frozen cream cheese I have in the freezer. That I'll save for baking, but I like to have some fresh cream cheese on some bread for sure. And JR says they are actually called donor cycles by the ER crew here. I believe it for sure. I have a friend whose mother was the charge nurse at one of the hospitals in Colorado, and her and her crew always called them organ donors. Every time, they would see one driving down the road, that's all they said was organ donor. And Happy says, I'm glad that you chose Alaska. You were meant to. I agree. I feel so much in my element here. It's like the home that I never had until I got here, and now I can't imagine leaving it. Giara says, episode 22, don't buy property in Alaska until you watch this. Thank you for putting that up there, JR. That is the exact episode that I do recommend watching if you're thinking about buying land here in Alaska. And JR, if you have a moment, if you could pop up the other one about finding work in Alaska. I don't remember the episode number on that one, but finding work in Alaska, unless you have a very specific, job set that you're looking at, like, I don't know, like you work in banking or you work in mortgages or something like that. If you're looking for an Alaskan job, you're going to need to know some things around all the requirements that there are to work here in Alaska. And that goes for people just working in the food service industry here in Alaska as well. And George says to JR, you're right with that. Used to have a lot of them in California. And JR says, in the park, you will have many more four-legged visitors. Yes, so my property is surrounded by federal and state lands. Well, actually, it's all federal lands that I think I'm surrounded by. And I don't have neighbors for a few miles in a couple directions, and a couple directions I have no neighbors around me whatsoever. So I always joke that I have 15 million acres in my backyard because I don't have anybody behind me. And I do have a lot of four-legged neighbors that come through my property at random. They don't even bother to call ahead of time, but at least they leave their calling card on the trail cams, so I get to see them as they come and go. And JR says to George, I parked mine and sold it when a good friend was killed on his donor cycle. That'll usually do it. And I'm sorry to hear you lost your friend that way too, JR. RM says to JR, sorry for your loss. My cousin, the same way. I think we all probably know somebody that has either experienced that or we ourselves have experienced it. So unfortunate. And Happy says, is it best to buy diesel fuel for stoves in summer? That I don't know. I would assume that the price might be lower in the summer because there's less demand. But honestly, I don't know. So this last year, I filled up my tank twice. The year prior, I filled it up twice also. Yeah, so twice a year I've been filling it up. But the first fill up is in the fall. And unfortunately, because of the work I'm having done here on the property this year, I also won't have the opportunity to fill it up until the fall because I need to rebuild the tank stand or buy a new one and move the tank, which that won't be done until they're done working around the cabin with some of the things that need to get done out there. So I wish I had an answer for you, but I would assume that is correct. And JR says $4.79 here in South Oregon. So your price is not too far off from what it is in Glen Allen. And that's for the lowest grade of gas up there in Glen Allen. And Happy says, if you're tapping out now, thank you, my friend. It's truly been such a joy to see you again. Well, thank you, Happy. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here and having patience with me as I got this one scheduled late for sure. And I'll be on for about another 15 minutes before I call it night. And RM says, I hope you do a video when you make the cream cheese. I will for sure. I definitely will. And George says, freedom is critical as it is. Freedom is critical as is respect. Many places that claim to be free fail to respect people and their security. The state should put its citizens ahead of their corporations. I agree with that completely. That is one of the things that I'm not a big fan of about our government is that the lobbyists have this pay to play mentality with our government. Our government allows it, and it's unfortunate. Yeah, there's corruption there, if you ask me. And Katie says our petrol is around $2 per liter, so about $8 per gallon. Yikes. That is outrageous. Yeah, that would bankrupt a lot of people, I think. Holy. John says, I agree. Don't buy land without touching the dirt and walking the land. Same rule for the Western lower 48 and probably just about anywhere. But yes, if you're buying rural land specifically, don't ever buy it sight unseen because you have no idea what you're probably getting yourself into. And RM says to George, well said. And George says to RM, thanks, stay free, and have a blessed day. I agree. RM says, same to you, George. And hi, Tiff. Original Six is here, everyone. Hi, Alone, she says. Just joined. Thank you, Tiff, for being here. I will be on for about another 10 minutes or so, but I'm glad you made it in at this last little bit of the live. It's always a pleasure to see you. And JR says, episode 67, Finding Your Dream Job in Alaska. What's the catch? That is the episode that I was referencing. So thank you very much for that, JR. I appreciate it. So again, if you're looking to move to Alaska and you're looking to find an Alaska type job, not just your standard office job, but something a little bit more unique to the state of Alaska, be sure to watch that video and get all the lowdown on all the certifications and things that you need to know before finding a job here in the state. And Original Six says, getting ready to log into work for some overtime. Ooh, hopefully you get making overtime money with that too. It's kind of, well, it's probably early for you as opposed to late. I was going to say it's late, but I usually find that when I was working my job that I found working after hours was the best because the phone wasn't ringing and I wasn't getting hit with a million emails. So I hope you get a lot done. And Happy says, please make the video regardless of whether it works out. Honestly, the rose hip tea still gets me in my quiet moments. Oh, yeah. I will definitely. I actually, I kind of think it's funny to show the things that don't go right because life isn't always perfect by any means. And I definitely am not. And so, yeah, I goof up all the time, but I will definitely bring you along, uh, whether it works out or not, for sure. And Katie says, I think that's around $5.55 US. That's still a lot of money though, really. If you think about it, $5.55 a gallon is a lot of money. And yeah, I know what you meant. Happy Chappy with the T. And Rustic Log Cabin Life says, I bought my land with 2 feet of snow on it, crossed my fingers on that one, and my toes too. Lol. Oh my goodness. You definitely took a risk with it, Big T, but I'm glad it worked out. And RM says, which episode has the skeeter repellent recipe or link? And hopefully JR can put that up for us. He says that it is, oops, sorry about that. It says episode 79 for you, RM. And JR says Alaska has the highest number of pilots of all 50 states. That's because there are so many bush pilots here, and those that fly for the tourist companies and what have you. So it's kind of not surprising, but it is amazing how many pilots we actually have here in the state. Delia says, good night, alone, and happy Father's Day to all. Well, thank you, Delia, and I hope you sleep well, and I will see you on the next one. Happy says, wow, you're running quite on time. Yeah, I'm surprised I'm able to keep up. Either I'm talking fast tonight, or maybe the comments are just coming in the frequency that allows me to chat a little bit longer on subjects. And Alex, how are you doing tonight? Alex says, hello from Minnesota, wishing you well over there. Well, thank you, Alex. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you being here in the chat with us. I will be on for about another 9 minutes. So you popped in just before I am signing off, but remember, you can always watch the replay to see what you missed earlier. JR, again, is saying that the mosquito repellent recipe can be found in episode number 79 in my video channel library. And George says, retired from the Army doing civil affairs, so got a good feel for what freedom cost and the dangers of poor government policy and what the good that people can do. You have to learn about the culture. This is true. This is definitely true. And I think there's a lot of us, that myself included in this, that can stand to learn about other cultures as well, and realize how good we have it here at home for sure. And RM says, the goof ups are great. Thanks for not being afraid to be real. You are so welcome. When I first started the channel, I didn't really want to do the bloopers at the end because I was embarrassed. But then a friend of mine told me, they're like, that's what makes you real. That's what makes you, not so rigid or stiff. It's like when you can show that you are actually human, he's like, it makes you real. So because of that, I added them in. So I'm glad you guys like them. And Happy says, yay, or yeah, the rosehip tea gets me laughing still, even a year later. It's given me inspiration on my videos on keeping it real. It's very funny. Yeah, it was one of those mix-ups where it's just like, nope, that's not right. Shouldn't have done that. And Seashell says, thank you, Alone, for the chats. Your awesome videos. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you, Seashell. I hope you do too. And I appreciate you being here with me tonight. It's always fun to hang out with you. And JR says, I think Monday night had 147 online. That's pretty good. That was 147 people in the chat at one particular moment. That was the highest peak chat. I'm curious to see what it'll be tonight when I look at the analytics. And George says, learn about the culture of where you want to live. As important as the natural resources, Alaska requires the right mindset and character. Saw that when I talked with Alaskans. This is true. There are a lot of people who were thinking that I was not going to make it here because I am rather girly. And, being a woman by myself, living out here by myself, don't really have neighbors. But I have that mindset. I am one stubborn and determined individual, and I am independent, very independent, and love to be self-sufficient. And I think you definitely have to have some of that in you when you live in Alaska, for sure. So great advice, George. Thank you. And Bill says, have a good night, Alone. You too, Bill. I appreciate you being here. And everyone, please be sure to pay Bill a visit over at his channel at Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead. And Happy says, so if we do a Mexican together, no tomatoes, yeah, pineapple and mango, okay, pineapple and mango are okay, and tomatoes are okay. Just every once in a while, they have a tendency to give me a little bit of a fit, but I'm still going to eat them. And you can throw in green onions to make it flavorful too. I'm all about it. And JR says, these lives also make you relatable. Thank you for that, JR. I appreciate it. And that is part of the reason that I do the lives the way that I do, is because it is that one opportunity that I have to interact with my viewers and to, all of you. And also because I am so busy these days in the summer months trying to get as many projects done as possible that I'm not really having the time to sit down and answer comments. So this is my time to answer some of the questions that have come up that I've seen in comments, and also to answer your questions and keep in touch with everyone and let you know how I'm doing and find out how you're doing too, because I care about all of you. And Carrie Ann says, I'm so glad that I got to participate tonight. Happy Father's Day to all fathers. Well, thank you, Carrie Ann. And please don't work too hard. Take care of yourself. I appreciate you. And John says, remember the longest day of the year is the 22nd of June, which is just in 4 days from now. And then my days here will start getting shorter, which is kind of a good thing because it's that countdown to winter that I'm missing so much. And RM says, tough as nails, you are pure Alaskan. Well, thank you, RM. I appreciate that. And JR says, a real Annie Oakley. Now, if only my aim was as good as hers. If I could do those trick shots, I'd be really happy. And Happy says, agreed, Alone. We need that. And the Alaskans appreciate that about us. I agree. Absolutely agree. And Rustic Log Cabin Life, Big T says, 18 more winters, then you'll be a sourdough. Yeah, I got a long ways to go. According to John, I'm still a Chichaco. John and Nomi. And Bernadette says, I'm stubborn and independent as well. I have an early morning, so it's probably time for me to say goodnight. Well, good night, Bernadette. Thank you for being here with me tonight, and I hope you sleep well and get up on time. And George says, been a great visiting with you alone and your gang. You all have a blessed night. You too, George. Thank you for everything. Appreciate you being in the chat with us. And RM says, thank you, Annie Alone, for the great visit tonight. You made this old lady's night so much better. God bless you. Well, thank you, RM, and God bless you as well, and everyone else. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I do want to say before I sign off here tonight, I want to say thank you again to Rob for being on here and moderating at the beginning. I also want to say thank you to JR for all your help in moderating, as well as Bill over at Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead. Be sure to check out both Alaska's Last Frontier Homestead, Curmudgeon Inn, Rustic Log Cabin Life, John in Alaska, Sean in Alaska, and all the other Alaskan YouTube channels, because I'm sure they would appreciate it. And for everyone else who was here tonight, I do want to say thank you, even if I don't get a chance to read your name off as I sign out here tonight. But I want everyone to have a good night and sleep well. And if it's your day and morning, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you on the next one for sure. And Happy says, we will do a sulfate-free foods together, my friend. Sounds awesome. And I cannot wait. And John says, winter is coming. And Terry Miller, hello, hello. How are you doing? And Terry says, see you. So Terry, just remember, you can watch this on the replay as well. Since you're just checking in with me now, it will be available in just a few moments. And Happy Chappy says, we'll miss you, my friend, until next month. Thanks to all. You're welcome, Happy. Please take care, and I'll talk to you soon. And Bernadette says, I'll be back on a chat. And we're not old, just seasoned. There you go. Good night, all. Good night, Tiff. And good night to everyone else. I'll see you next time.